Now, you ladies and gentlemen, for all you who have been patient, and I mean patient, for waiting for Gray to finally have a fight in this whole Spriggan 12 war, then I am finally happy to announce to you as well that we have finally got a Gray fight between him and Invel, and only something that he can do himself. Now, we're definitely going to have a very interesting fight on our hands coming up to chapter 597 and onward with 598. So let's just cut right into it. So we start off immediately in this chapter. We get to see that Mavis being pinned to a table, getting her entire body getting just drained of the entire fairy heart, and she's just, even Aline is just like, you know, like, this thing is a poor thing and all that, having, like, you know, like, stole right under her nose and all that, and saying, you know, like, you're like, Invel, like, makes you lose, you know, your very senses and all that. It's, you know, you're like encasing your heart in ice. And like, one thing was very interesting, it's just that Zereth was just looking over this throughout the entire time and all that, and he's just like, is this going to take any longer? And he's just like, you know how special she is, Lord Zereth, and all that. You know, like, I was saying, like, why are you wearing your, like, emotions on your sleeve today and all that? And it's like, he's like, I don't like her to suffer anymore and all that. I have no desire and all that. And it's so, like, there is that emotion and care thing that, like, Zereth has the maid is still there. I mean, but then again, he's crazy, and just Aline just like, just straight up like just says it like that. It's rude as I may be and all that. I fear I may speak my mind here and all that. If you do not rid yourself of that naivety, you will never defeat Acnologia, the apotheosis of darkness itself, truly the lord of all dragons. And he's just like, you're right and all that. And it's just, I'm gonna take my lead now. And I think he's still, like, even like he knows, like, kind of knows about that, he's still the woman that he cared for and all that. He just does not want at all to see suffer anymore. Now, the big question all that, like, with it, all of this now, is when Nineheart especially appeared towards, you know, like, Aline, and it was saying, like, a little bit, you know, I've located Lady Urza out of everything, and it's just like, you know, what should we do and all that, you know, she lives after all and all that, and we know she's engaged in combat, and as well, you know, she just turns over and she says, kill her. Don't make me repeat myself and all that. You fight her yourself and remember who you are. And just like his eyes start turning black, and he just go, I am. Now here's the thing, where is it, like, with, especially with Nineheart, is he another creation just like what we've already seen, like with like, especially with aliens, like, two subordinates and all that? Is he like a weapon of some sort? Is it like, is he another sword? Is he another stat? Like, is like every option's up there at the moment? Is there like a very close relation? Because I don't think if he was just a weapon or something like that, he would have had that reaction to Urza at all. I don't think he would have had something of that similarities of it. I feel like maybe, like, he could be related, like, he was related to the family at some point, that he was, like, some noble, or maybe, like, he is being possessed, like, anything like that. Because, like, I'm trying to think, like, exactly if he was a weapon, what the weapon would be on the par of a level of a fucking, like, power like that. Because Nineheart's ability is very interesting. And another thing is saying, since especially his name is Nineheart, which nine is German just for no, so his whole name is No Heart. So it's like, well, that's like always been a clue into saying that he never had a heart anyway, because he was never a real person to begin with. So that's something you could always think about it, and it's like, especially like, you know, like with his eyes kind of like turning black, then it was like, you know, is that like a sign of him turning back and remembering who he is? Is that some kind of demon side to him or anything like that? Who knows? But we do cut after this part to seeing Urza literally fighting on the battlefield. So does that mean, for the fact that, like I was saying, like, you gotta fight her yourself and all that, does that mean in fact that Nineheart isn't as weak as we originally thought, though? Which, if that's the case, that's awesome. If that's the fact that he isn't so weak, where it's just like he has to hide behind his, like, his memory matter, like, after everything, which I love. That's the fact that it's like, gives something more to this character, and then also as well, you're adding into the elements that he's very important to Urza in there some way, the same way as Aline is to Urza. It's like, I love that, and it's definitely, they know they're trying to build this stuff a lot further on. And while we didn't get too much on the side of everyone else on the war and all that, apart from, you know who, like, because at the end of this chapter, like, we did clearly see that, like, out of all of them, all that, Gildarts was fucking crushing people. He was absolutely messing up people from there, and the only like tiny bits we got was like panning off to other people on there. So you saw like Mina that was fighting off against War and all that, kicking him in the face and all that. You saw right there that Rogue was going against like Bradman, that Mira Jane was still facing off, you know, like, against everyone, like, and then even still Lusana and Elfman is still the weirdest one trying to go against Argyle, and like, you know, I still feel weird about that fight going off at the same time. But whilst that's happening, Natsu trying to charge in with the Roar and try to push his way through the court, and his complete fire just got like frozen immediately like there. And it's just like, yeah, like go from all that and say like, and immediately he tried to burn and try and do like what immediately he tried to do last time with Dragon King mode, and it just didn't work, and everybody frozen in place except for Gray. And he's like, and you see Invel approaching them as he's frozen all of them into place, and like even him saying, oh, you seem to be immune to this cold. Now very fascinating. And even when he just tries to like do anything to him and all that, like when Gray tried to shoot some ice lances right back at him or anything like that, he just got hit by it, and just immediately, even with like the ice light on his body, he just implanted and exploded it. And it's just like, you may address me, sir, as Jura Invel, and I am the one who brings winter's wrath to all, and your paltry chill is nothing before my winter. And this is where it's like, okay, we need to find more about like Invel. How is the way to combat, like, and why exactly? Is it just because Gray is an ice magician that he's immune to this? Is this because of an ice devil slayer? The question is though, since we've already seen like if you can activate the ice devil mode at any time, probably his best option right now is perhaps maybe to activate his power and to actually eat this ice and maybe get some sort of power from this. Like we've already seen him, he's already manipulated, like we saw like Silver's manipulated that ice once before to defeat like the opponent on Sun Village arc. Maybe he could do this again going against Invel. And the one thing is that like when a lot of people were thinking like, we don't really know the name Yura like that, like as Yura Invel, and it's like that was the thing where it's like, apart from like the character we know from the Saints and all that, it's like we like that was not the word we were expecting. Like also we were thinking like Ultir, like kind of like we were speaking like that, but then as well we've never known Ul or like Ultir's kind of last name, so maybe that could perhaps be something related to as well. Although I'm still a little bit weird if that was the case, like to bring a little bit of relation to him, but that would be interesting if the fact that he's like he came from the generation that taught all like magic and all that. So I would be kind of cool if that was the case and all that, and he was like, this is the true master, and this is like what like the pinnacle of like ice mages like, that you're gonna get to, where Gray is like, as he's clearly seen all that, you can freeze people literally on point and take care of them like that. You can also freeze their emotions, and it's like there's so much that you can do with freezing and controlling temperatures like that. It's a very interesting power. I've always liked fascinating ice powers and all that, because it's not really just at the end just reduced to ice. You're controlling temperature, you're controlling heat as itself, and if you can manipulate that, you're a deadly ass opponent. And definitely like Invel is showing that, is that someone who's already been able to master just already kind of temperature and already kind of different kinds of freezing and all that stuff. That look at him, he was able to make make this of all people, like one of the like the fairy tactician, completely dumb and just completely helpless after everything. So you know, it's definitely a unique power of itself. And with the next chapter with 498 being like titled Gray vs Invel, I am very curious to see like how Gray is going to combat this exactly, since we've seen that with ways like with his last like ice opponent that he went against, mainly his father Silver, he had to defeat him ways other than actually using like actual ice itself. So we're going to be curious in all that, how exactly he's going to take him down, and whether or not it's going to be brute strength, he's going to catch him off guard, whether or not he's going to like use his ice against him, like eat it perhaps, like we're going to have to wait and see and all that. But on that, I thought this was kind of an interesting chapter, right and on to the end and all that. Like definitely the most interesting parts of the chapter was definitely at the end with like Gray and Invel, and the stuff right at the very start when we saw Annie like talking to Nineheart, especially about like, you know, to locating Lady Urza of all people, and it was like, that was a very interesting. And then is even as well like her kind of like confronting like Xerath and saying like, you need to stop being like naive and all that, you're never going to defeat Athnologia with this little child friendly like mentality and all that. I know like you had importance, like, you know, she was important to you, but you need to let go of that shit. You need to let go, like Xerath, you need to become that cold-hearted monster that everyone knows you for. So definitely like really did like enjoy this chapter on there. I will say like there was a good majority where a lot of it was just like Urza just flying around like Gildas and all that. I was like hoping that maybe we could get some of those fights started on that with their opponents, but it's definitely looking like that Urza is going to have a round 2 with 9 heart, and I feel like that's a very interesting thing there. It's like we now have a little bit of the question where it's like, what exactly is 9 heart? Is he a demon perhaps and all that? Is he like, is he a weapon or some staff of some kind and all that? Is he just like another creation from my Irene after everything? That's a big question to it. Or like, what is exactly his relation? Is he in fact a noble of like Urza's like family and all that? Like, we honestly need to know and all that, since there are many questions right now about that. And also as well, what do you guys think about the Gray versus Invel? Are you finally happy? I know a lot of people for the longest time have been screaming for Gray to have a fight after so long and all that, since everyone else in like the guild and all that has had a fight. I'm glad I was kind of right saying that only Gray is the sort of person to kind of deal with this at the moment, and I wonder if in fact that anything, Invel is going to use the hostages to his advantage. Is he going to use that like that, since he is like a tactician? So would he in fact use that? So I'm very curious and all that, or does he have some sort of code of honor at some point and all that? But then again, it's a war and all that, so you shouldn't really fucking think about that. But like, regardless, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching. Always, I think I'm going to give this one chapter an 8 this week. I think I very enjoyed it. It definitely builds up some very interesting stuff about 9 heart as well, and I'm definitely looking forward to like having a round 2 with him and Urza. I think that's going to be cool and all that, especially there's a lot more going to him where he's going to have to fight himself, so I want to know what that's going on. But that's all from me, so I will see you beautiful bastards so next time.